This is Gemara Pesachim Daf Sadi Zayin. Tonight's year should be a special schos for Shleim of Yudimir Ben Ikir, Chaim Yitzchak Moshe Ben Esther Reza Yud Emmanuel Ben Fego, Chaim Ben Sar Solom Stephen Reza Yidol Sar Baskanadol Yitvasim Bas Chai Ser Yisrael Memendel. Eliezer Paris between the Chevrolet Shomim Bas Navini Vashev Fego Vashir Chanafal Davini Teriva Shmuel Ben Tila Dina Ben Chan Reza Melchai Bas Minuli Brach Bas Tavia Musa Dina Idol Bas Shena Mindol Simcha Tovia Bas Avigal Pasha Svi Ben Fego Dvarim Mitchel Sivran Athili Yehuva B'Sayik Shar Chali Yisrael. This is the daf for Friday Purim. Throughout the world, Yudalid Adar, day 1 of Purim, here in Yerushalayim. Of course, we're trying to get these up early so everyone could plan accordingly. We're holding about 6 lines from the bottom. Sadivav Amud Beis Ika Demasni La Aresha. There are those that said this din of Rava, which actually is a girsa, which is Rabba on the Resha. So let's do a quick chazara to get ourselves back into things. Well, yesterday, we'll just highlight the key words over here. This was Rabba that said that the whole din is when you nimsa la'achar shchita, v'hemer ba'achar shchita. Again, what's going on over here is a concept of temura. The concept of temura is that when you have one animal and you change the kedusha to another animal, the halacha is the kedusha does indeed change, but the original animal retains its status as being kadosh. Therefore, both of them, you have 2 animals, basically, which are going to have the kedusha. But the question is going to be, what happens if you lost animal A and therefore you made animal B into a Karban Pesach, and then you find the original animal? So depending on when you find that animal, that's going to be the world of a difference. If you find that animal, for example, before you shech the new animal, now what do you have in front of you? You have 2 animals, 2 Karban Pesachs. You go and you shech the animal B, you effectively are pushing away animal A. You're pushing away the animal that you lost, so that animal no longer can be makriv as a Karban, and therefore that animal you're going to have to leave, you're going to have to get a mum, and then you're going to have to use it as an adava. Whereas if you find the animal after you already shechted the new animal, so you didn't do anything wrong, the animal wasn't in front of you, you never pushed it away, and that's going to be the reason that there's going to be more of an understanding that the animal that is found afterwards could, yes, be used as a karban shlamim. And till now, what we've seen, yesterday's din of Rava was that the temura, the item that you put in exchange of the original item, gets the same din as item A. So if that item that you found, if that karban after you found, let's say you found it after the shchita, which we just explained means you didn't push it away, it could, yes, be used as a shlamim. If you then go and change the kedusha onto another animal, which again, let's remind ourselves, doing this item of temura is the wrong thing to do. It's an aveira. But if you were to have done it, the halacha is going to be the exact same thing as that animal, also be able to be brought as a shlamim. Now we have Ika Damasla Aresha. There are those that learned Rava's din on the Resha of the Mishnah, which says as follows, 6 lines to the bottom. If you find the original Pesach before you do the Shchita, what's the halacha? Like we just explained, so now you have 2 animals in front of you, you're effectively pushing away that first animal. So halacha is, you have to let it graze until it gets a mum, v'yimkar, and you sell it, you have a dam the shlamim, and with the money you buy a carbon, but the animal itself cannot be used as a carbon because you have pushed it away. And so too if you exchange it for another animal. On this din of the Reisha, says Rava, this halacha that we just saw, that you let it get grazed, get a mum, and use the money for a shlamim, is only if you found it before the shchita, and you did the tmura, you exchanged it for another animal before the shchita. Well, what happens now? A new case. Let's say you found it before the shchita. So right in front of you have 2 animals. We just said what's the halacha? That by shechting animal 2, animal 1, you're effectively pushing away. That animal you cannot bring as a shlamim. That animal you have to go get him up. But what happens if afterwards then the hemer ba'achar shchita, after the shchita, you then go with that original animal, you say, I'm going to put the kedusha on animal C, animal number 3. The halacha is, according to this lashon of Rava, temurasai, that animal C, kreva shlamim. That animal C does not have the same din as animal B. Again, I had a karban pesach. I lost that karban pesach. That's animal A. Then I go and I take another karban pesach. That's animal B. I find my original animal A before I shech the animal B. So I have them both in front of me. I go and I shech B. What does that mean? That means I'm effectively pushing away A. Could A be a shlamim? The answer is no. A has to go graze and get a mum and use the money as an adav. But now, after I shecht animal B, I have now A in front of me. I go and I say, you know what, A, before I let you go graze, I want to make a tamura onto animal C. So yesterday we learned that animal C is the exact same halacha as animal A, that the exchange is the same thing as original animal, and therefore what's the halacha going to be? That C also has to graze and get a mum. However, today Rava is teaching us absolutely not, that C, this new tamura, could be, yes, brought as a shlamim. My taima, says the Gemara, kikava shchita midi the chazi lay. However, mida deloy chazi lay loy kabah. That what it causes the issue is only something that is fit, something that is around that original carbon, but the tamura was not there because you didn't make the tamura, you didn't make the exchange, you didn't consecrate onto the other animal till afterwards. Therefore, it's going to be considered like you did nothing wrong in that new animal. Can yes be brought as a carbon shlamim. Says the Gemara, Esvei, 2 lines on the bottom. Esvei Abaye, Ibn Kasev, it says in the Torah those actual words like we saw yesterday, Matam Aloymar, Le Rabba Yismurza Pesach Achar Pesach Shekiva Shlamim. That if you have a substitute Pesach that is you create after the carbon Pesach, the halacha is it's like a shlamim. Says the Gemara as we move along to Sadi Zayin but Aleph Yachal, you would think Af Lifnei Pesach Kain, it's the same thing before the carbon Pesach. Who karav vein Timurasa Pesach Kreva? Only that carbon Pesach is brought as a carbon, but not something else. Just like we saw yesterday. Says the Gemara, Chidami, what's the case? You found the original animal before you did the shechita, and you made a tamura, you made exchange for it on before you did the shechita. Pshita, that's 100% obvious. What's your chiddush? Of course, it gets the same status as the animal that you found. Lamalikra, why do you need a pasuk? Elalav shenim sakaydem shechita vehemer ba achar shechita. What must the case be? You found the animal before you did the shechita, then you actually did the shechita on animal 2. So animal A, animal 1 is being pushed away. You cannot bring that as a shlamim anymore. And then when did you do the tamura? When did you exchange for animal C? After the shechita. And yet, what do we just see? We just saw that the halacha is that it could be yes. The halacha is that it's the same status as the tamura itself. Therefore, it says the Gemara, Tiyofta de Rava Tiyofta. Rava in this second lashon is we no longer have the din of Rava. The Gemara has a good kasha on Rava because we see clearly over here that the tamura is going to get the same din as the animal itself. Amar Shmuel Nusagya, says the Gemara, 8 lines from the top. Kol shebachatais meisa bepesach karav samim. Says Shmuel a rule. Now, just to point out, the Rashi points out a little bit further in the Amid, don't try to make sense of this rule. This rule of Shmuel is more of a siman. It's a way to remember what's going on. So anytime you have a carbon chatos that requires mesa, what does that mean? That's exeris akasav, that there are certain times you see directly across in Rashi that chamesh chatois mesa is alach l'moshe misinai is alach l'moshe misinai. That 5 different types of carbon chatos, what you have to do with them is constantly keep. You put them in a jail cell, vein mesas, and then they're going to die. There's 5 different chatos that are required to be put to death. Let them starve to death. One of those 5 cases of a lot of achatas, if the female chatas gives birth, that offspring is number 1. Utmuras chatas, the exchange of a chatas, which obviously is why this Gemara is coming in over here. The chatas, we're in the middle of Rashi right now. The chatas shemesa ba'elel, if the owner dies, number 3. The chatas shenschaber ba'elel yedei acheres, the owner got a kapara from something else. And number 5 is sha'avda, or the animal was lost. Zois v'achar kein nimsa sha'avra shenasa, or it was found, or it was avra shenasa. Those are the 5 cases that the halacha is that the chatas is put to death. So says Shmuel, the same animal called any one of those cases, when we transform it and transcribe it into Pesach world, the carbon Pesach will be brought as a carbon. V'chol, now Shmuel continues. V'chol shebechatas raya. Anytime you have a carbon chatas, it has to graze until it gets a mum. The halacha is bePesach nami raya. Carbon Pesach is the same way. So Shmuel again taught us, if you have a chatas that has to be killed, the Pesach becomes a shlamim. If you have a chatas that needs to go get a mum, the Pesach has to go get a mum. That's the din of Shmuel, which we're going to address in a moment. Rav Yochanan Amar, which we're not going to address right now, he says no. The only time you bring a carbon Pesach is a shlam if you find the original carbon Pesach after you shechted the new carbon Pesach. If you found it before the shechita, it will not be brought as a shlam. That's the din of Rav Yochanan, which we're going to get back to in a few moments. So again, Shmuel Shmuel taught us that we have a chatos that is required to be put to death, one of the 5 cases of halach l'Moshe Misinai. Similar case by the Karban Pesach, you bring it as a shlamim. Maskiv Allah Rav Yosef uklalu. Is it a general rule, Shmuel? Are you telling me that in all 5 cases there are 5 chatos that to be put to death? If you're telling me if those 5 cases happen to Karban Pesach, they all are brought as a shlamim. V'harei, I'll ask you a stira. Chatos shavar shenasa. Chatos that the year passed. The chatos has to be 1 year old if it passed the year. What's the halacha del riyah? It goes out to get a mum. So if it goes out to get a mum, what should the math say? Says Shmuel. Says Shmuel, then the Karban Pesach should also go out to get a mum in the same case. Damar Rav Shimon ben Lakish, Chatas Shavar Shanasa, Ryan is like Kilu, Hiyom Medis. A Chatas that year number 1 passed by, we viewed as if it passed the basic varis. For Ryan, we let it graze till it gets a mum. However, and this is the question, if you live in Pesach, get gam the car of Shlamim. The halacha is, you have a Karban Pesach, let the year passes by, you do not wait for it to get a mum. Rather, you bring it as a shlamim. How do we know that Tanya learned to the Bryce? Kesef says the Torah. The Rabbi says that you include. We saw this yesterday that the tail of the Karban Pesach has to be burnt. Kishoimer im Kesef. The Rabbi that comes to include as a Pesach shavar shenasai. That if the year passes. The halacha is that the Karban Pesach ushlamim ba'im machmas haPesach l'chol mitzvahs. That it's going to have to be brought as a shlamim. It has to be brought as a shlamim. So it says the Gemara, you're telling me a rule, Shmuel, that any time you have a Karban chatos, that has to go get a mum. But the same case of a Karban shlamim, same case of a Karban Pesach, I'm sorry, it also has to go get a mum. But we see clearly it's not true because you have a Karban chatos that when the year passes by, it has to go and get a mum. Yet by the Karban Pesach, the halacha is you bring it as a shlamim. Says the Gemara, Shlamim shetu'unin smicha unisachem utu'nufa chaza v'shaik. I'm sorry, this is the end of the price. So one more time. In case of the rabbis of Pesach, this comes to include the Pesach. I'm sorry, this is all part of the question. L'chol mitzvahs Shlamim shetu'unin smicha. Whereas it comes to Karban shlamim that you have to smicha nisachem tu'nufa. You have to wave the chaza v'shaik shoimer. Im is the Torah's actual word. Hifzika ini limed al eish ein tonalia. Special din that days you don't have to burn up the tail. We see clearly that there is a discrepancy between the 1 year old year mark passing by a Karban shlamim, which you have to go get a mum by a Karban Pesach, that you bring it as a shlamim. Amar lei, I'm sorry, a chatos when a 1 year old passes goes and gets a mum, whereas a Pesach when the 1 year old passes, you go and you let it bring it as a Karban shlamim. Answers the Gemara, Amar lei, ki kamer Shmuel ba'avudan, u'b'dechuyan lo yamar. Shmuel, there were 5 cases, right? Like Rashi taught us, chamish chatais, there were 5 cases. Shmuel only said his din by those that which are lost, but not those which you push away b'yadayim, not like the 1 year old case. And now the Gemara is going to further try to figure out whether this rule stands the test of time. Ask the Gemara, is there such a case that a chatas is going to get lost and therefore the Karban Pesach will have the same din? But if you lost your Karban Pesach at the time of the separating the animal, also according to Rabbanan, you have to let it go out and get a mum. Now we learned in the Mishnah, but if the chatos you separate, you lose the Karban chatos, and then what did you do? Similarly, like we've been talking all day, you separate another chatos in its place. Says Rabbi, what's the halach? They're both in front of you. One you bring, one has to go and get killed. These are the crucial words. Ein chatos mesa elosh nimsas ashen is gaber bailim. You only put it to death if it's found after the bailim already had a kapara. Raya, you let it go out and get a mum. So what do we see clearly? We see clearly that by the Karban chatos, it has to go out and get a mum according to the chachamim. Yet, if you lost your Karban Pesach v'nim zacher chatzois, koydem shchita, you found the Karban Pesach after chatzois before you shech the karav shlamim. It's a shlamim again. What was Shmuel's equation? That by a chatos it goes out and gets a mum, by a Pesach it should go out and get a mum. Here we're seeing clearly by a chatos. The halacha is it goes out and gets a mum. Yeah, by the Karban Pesach the halacha is you bring it as a shlamim. Answers the Gemara, Shmuel Karebi, Svirle. Shmuel's like Rebbe Damar Avuda Lemisa Azla. Shmuel, our Rebbe disagrees, right? We quoted a Bryce a moment ago, Divrei Rebbe, and then we went into the Chachamim. The Chachamim were the ones that said that Kodim Sheniskab Rabbailin Raya, you let it go and get a mum. Rebbe disagrees. Shmuel goes like the opinion of Rebbe that says Avuda is Lemisa Azla. Goes to get killed. Vakol avuda, the Rabbi Misa says, what do you mean? According to Rabbi, every case when you lose the carbon, it has to get killed. Vilu Pesach. Yeah, when it comes to carbon Pesach, if you lost the carbon Pesach before Chatzais, you found it before Chatzais. Roya, then what? You have to go and get a mum. So again, we see it's not parallel. The whole din of Shmuel was the Chatos and the Pesach parallel each other. But we see clearly it's not true. We see clearly that the carbon Pesach is going to get a mum and the carbon Chatos is going to be put to death. Says the Gemara, Koidim Chatzais lav avidu. If it's lost before Chatzais, that's not considered to be lost. Kidarava damarava avedas leila lav shma aveda. Doesn't have a din of aveda. Therefore, don't say that it's not equatable between the Pesach and the Chatos in a case where it's lost before Chatzais, because that's not called lost, because aveda during the nighttime is not considered getting lost. Ela raya the Rabbi Yechim Mishkachas law. Says Gemara, okay, fine. So what is the case? So he's moving along to Sadi Zayin Abayz. What is the case that according to Rabbi, it has to go out, it has to graze to get a mum? Says the Gemara, you separate two chatayis, you're a little bit nervous. You separate one, you're afraid, what's going to happen? I'm going to lose it. You know what you say? No big deal. I'm going to separate a second karber chatos. Lachrayis is a guarantee. What's the halacha? Mischaber ba'achas, man. Once you get one kaparo, shniya tira, and the second carbon, you got to let go out, let it graze again a mum. So we see clearly there is a case where it's a lost carbon chatos, and it's going getting a mum. So what should the math of Shmuel say? The math of Shmuel should say, by a carbon Pesach, the same thing should happen. Yeah, it says the Gemara 3 lines from the top, said he's saying a base, Vilu Pesach, Ki Agavna, in this case, Karav Shlamim. In this type of case, you separated two animals and you got a kapara with one, you do not let the second one go out and get a mum, rather you bring it as a shlamim. So you see again, we keep on asking the same question. According to Shmuel's equation was whatever happens to the chatas to get a mum, the Pesach will get a mum. And therefore we keep on seeing constantly that's absolutely not true. The first statement of Shmuel as well was the first statement of Shmuel that when the chatas has to be killed, the Pesach has to be brought as a shlamim, but the Gemara can't find a case where this applies. Allah says, the Gemara, Shmuel, Rav Shimon, Svirle, Shmuel's like Rav Shimon, there's 5 cases that they get put to death. Rav Shimon last lake lao says Mara, wait, okay, that's very good, but there's never a case according to Rav Shimon that you go and get a mum. And what happened in Amud Aleph? When Amud Aleph, Shmuel taught us. Shmuel said that there are some cases the chatas gets death and the Pesach gets a shlamim. And there's some cases that the chatas has to be brought out to graze until he gets a mum. But Shmuel Shimon never holds of such a din. Klal says the Gemara, Shmuel nami chada kamar. Shmuel only said one statement. We the whole time were going with the understanding that there were two statements of Shmuel. There was a first statement that Shmuel says anytime a chatas has to get killed, then the carbon Pesach is brought as a shlamim. That was case number 1. And Shmuel continues, anytime a chatas goes to get a mum, the Pesach has to get a mum. The Gemara now is answering on Tzadi Zayin Amud Beis 6 lines from the top that Shmuel only said one din chada kamer. Kol shebechatois meisa, anytime the carbon chatas is put to death, Pesach, Karav, Shlamim, that the carbon Pesach is brought as a Shlamim. He did not say the end of the statement. The end of the statement which reads that if the Chatas goes and gets a mum, the Pesach has to get a mum. That statement is not Shmuel. Says the Gemara. So my Kamashmuel, what is the Chiddush of this din of Shmuel? Lafukim in Rabbi Yochanan, to exclude from the din of Rabbi Yochanan, the Amar in Pesach Karav Shlamim. Carbon Pesach is never brought as a Shlamim. El Shenim Sa'achar Shchita. Only in a case that is found after the original one of a Shechta. Avokaitim Shchita Lai. But if it's found before the shchita, then you do not bring it as a shlamim. Alma shchita kava. That's Rav Yochanan's opinion that the shchita is the kaiveya. Kamash malor chatzais kava. The chatzais is kaiveya. Which, if you remember, we had yesterday in Tzadivavam and Beis. This was a machlokes over there after the Mishnah, whether between Rav Zira and Rava, whether it's the shchita which is the kaiveya, whether the chatzais is the kaiveya, and that's what the Gemara is saying, that Shmuel is taking sides in that machlokes. And Shmuel is only teaching us one din. As you see, Rashi, we'll read one Rashi before we wrap up the day. Rashi over here says, but when you find it before the Shechita, which is Odin in Chatzai, says Rashi in the first wide line. And that is the din that Shmuel is arguing on, and Shmuel is saying, like Rav Shimon, that it all has to do with the time of the Hafarash, the time of the Shechita. Says the Gemara, Lishna Achrina, there's another way to learn the statement of Shmuel. The second way of learning the statement of Shmuel goes back and explains that really Shmuel did say both dinim. There were two parts of Shmuel's statement. Again, let's remind ourselves. Part number one of Shmuel's statement was anytime a chatas is put to death. Again, those 5 unique Kalach L'Moshe Misinai cases where the chatas is put in the room to starve till it gets killed, dies by a Karban Pesach, we brought as a shlamim. The second statement of Shmuel that a chatas which has to go out and get him home, Shmuel agrees, applies to Karban Pesach as well. Shmuel did say that, but Shmuel only said that in the case that the Shmuel said that in the case that the chatas is found before the replacement, before the other carbon is shachted, then it's going to be different. Let's let the Gemara speak to that. Lishna Achrina. That how do we explain the difference? Ve'ilu bePesach heicha da'avid. In the case of the Pesach where it is lost, v'nimsa achar chatzos koidem shchita. You found the Karban Pesach after chatzos, but before the second one was shachted. Then the halach is yikrav shlamim. Then the halach is you're going to bring it as a shlamim. Shmuel Karabbas v'yulei damar shchita kava. And in this answer of the Gemara, Shmuel is going with Rabba that the shchita is the kaveya and not chatzos. Says the Gemara, what do you mean about the Gemara of Yechon Allah in a Pesach Gar of Shlamim Melish and Imzachar shchita? Well, again, let's remind yourself what happened in Haman Aleph. After Shmuel said these two dinim, there was Rabbi Yochanan, which we never dealt with till right now. Rabbi Yochanan responded back to Shmuel, Eina Pesach Gar of Shlamim Melish and Imzachar shchita. But before Shechita, no. Seemingly Shmuel argues on that din. Rav Yochanan held before Shechita, no. Seemingly that's where Shmuel is disagreeing. Says the Gemara, but the Gemara Rav Yochanan lo in a Pesach Gar Shlamim Shnim Za'achar Shechita. Aval Kaidem Shechita lo ya'alma Shechita Kava. We see very clearly that Rav Yochanan holds. Apologies, Rav Yochanan holds. The shchita is the kaveya. Michlal, that Shmuel who argues over chatzais is the kava. So how are you telling me, according to this Lishna Achrina, that Shmuel holds that the shchita is the kaveya? Ella Shmuel Kerebi Svirle Damar Avuda Lemisa Oslo. When you lose the animal, it goes to death. Says Marva Kol Avuda the Rebbe Misin, like we saw in Amad Aleph. This is all the same questions. According to Rebbe, it always goes to death. So we see again the equation of Shmuel is not parallel. Those are the two Lashonis. So it really comes out, if you're holding the math, that at the end of the day, the second Lashon of Shmuel is very, very similar to the first Lashon. The second Lashon is agreeing that the Chatzais is going to the Kaveya. There's a minor difference that in the second Lashon, we're agreeing that Shmuel made both statements, whereas in the first Lashon, we said Shmuel only said the first statement. Rav Yochanan is disagreeing, and he's saying that the Shechita is the Kaveya, where Shmuel is saying Chatzais is the Kava, and we'll pick it up from the Mishnah on the next Shir Mirz Hashem.